Hi, everybody. Welcome to another week of Top Fives. Are you ready to go? The focus of week two is talking about evidence-based practice, or is that evidence-informed practice, or is that evidence-informed nursing practice? Number one on our list, there are lots of different terms floating around, whether it's in the articles you had to read or in other things that you come across. So which is it? Well, there's some nuance, great and small, between each of these terms, making it a little bit hard, and often people use them interchangeably. But there is a difference. So in 5 minutes or less video, I'm going to go over in more detail what the difference of the terms are. But for now, let's just think about what unifies all these terms. So what they all have in common is the idea that we need to use the best information that's available to direct how we care in practice. So if you were to take anything from that, it's just that whether we're talking about evidence-based practice, but evidence-informed practice, the underlying concept here is that we are using the best available information, the best knowledge, to impact and inform practice. So evidence from research findings is also common to all of these terms, but some of them emphasize only that, while others are emphasizing the fact that it's only one piece of the puzzle. So building on this idea of evidence from research being only one piece of the puzzle, the number two key idea from your readings or from this week is that no level of scientific evidence will eliminate the need for professional clinical judgment and consideration of client processes when we're talking about providing the best patient care. So we can't rely just on the evidence. And when we think about evidence-based medicine, or this term evidence-based practice that came a little bit later on, and I talked about that in one's video, it really just focused on the application of evidence, which is a good thing. But in nursing, we recognize that there's a lot more complexity to providing care than just taking research evidence and applying it to every patient. So number two on our list is evidence is important, but it's not the only thing we need to consider. And it doesn't eliminate the need for us to include and consider clinical judgment and consider the preferences and values of our clients. Number three. So number three comes to us from the Karnick article that talks about nursing theory and evidence-based practice as it's presented. And the argument here is that we seem to be moving further away from nursing theory as evidence-based practice takes a hold of our healthcare, and to some extent that makes sense. When you think about evidence-based practice, why wouldn't you want to emphasize what is the best practice and is going to give you the best outcomes? And in many ways, that's very enticing for administration from a fiscal perspective. We want to save money by doing what's most efficient. However, when we look at the profession of nursing, what is at the heart of what we do? Nursing theory is what defines nursing, because it provides us with the language and the ways of looking at the world, how we build relationships with our clients, and how we engage with them. And so without nursing theory, what really then defines nursing from other professions? And when we're practicing evidence-based practice, what really makes us any different from a physician or an occupational therapist? Nursing is a unique profession with its own unique view of how health happens, what the environment is, who the patient is, who the nurse is, and who that relationship is. And the argument being made in this article is that it's fundamental that we foster and consider consider nursing theory, because it is necessary for us to be able to do the evidence-based practice process. So nursing theory helps us to understand how best to engage with our patients, how we approach assessment, what kinds of things we focus on, and how we gather information, the types of information that we need to be able to engage in the nursing process. Nursing theory does that for us. So Karnick is arguing, and I believe rightfully, that nursing theory and evidence-based practice should be complementary to each other, and one shouldn't mean the demise of the other. So number 4 on our list is really part 2 of 3. So we're still focusing on nursing theory. And that's to say that nursing theory, in fact, guides nursing actions in the evidence-based process. So I sort of alluded to that in the 3rd point, but I really want to hit that on the head here, that to be able to integrate evidence into your practice, nursing theory is what we're going to use to help us move through that process. And so generating questions, the fact that we have a nursing theory guides us to look at the world, look at the patient, look at health in a different way, leads us to ask different kinds of questions, different kinds of clinical questions that maybe other professions may not be concerned with or may not ask. And so right even from the beginning, when we identify a clinical problem that then we want to move forward with, we are guided by nursing theory. And so nursing theory then enables nurses to also incorporate other forms of evidence into that process, because by virtue of the holistic nature of nursing theory, we as nurses are bound to consider our patients' perspectives, our clinical expertise, other factors that have an impact on the decisions that we and our clients make. So nursing theory lends itself to that more holistic approach of application of evidence, what we've defined and what's defined in your textbook as evidence-informed practice. So that's number 4. Number 5 focuses on the steps of the evidence-based practice process. So there are a number of different approaches to doing evidence-based practice, and in particular evidence-informed practice, but you can sketch out a general set of steps that you have to follow. The first is asking a question. So we need to ask clinical questions to begin to then, number 2, search for the best empirical evidence. Then we need to critically appraise that evidence, integrate that evidence with clinical expertise, patient preferences and values. Then we evaluate the outcomes and decisions that we've made based on the evidence, and then we disseminate. So share that process with other people so that they can learn from our insights, what worked well, what didn't work well. So that is the evidence-based process steps in general. All right, so that's it for this week. Thank you. And if you want to know a little bit more about evidence-based practice, check out the In 5 Minutes or Less discussion, where I sort of break down for you the different terms and what they actually mean.